For the last 100 years, college sports have entertained us, united us, and given us something to talk and argue about. It's the greatest reality TV show we will ever have. Since the 50s, the so-called student athletes have been receiving athletic scholarships that offer financial aid, covering tuition, fees, room, and board as an incentive to play for their universities. But not all student athletes get a scholarship. Better known as walk-ons, these athletes practice and compete for universities without any compensation. Year after year, walk-on athletes prove to be an essential part of a team, although the NCAA system is not built in a way to display that. Even so, walk-ons continue to make the unthinkable happen during their careers. Women's gymnastics coach KJ Kindler and men's football coach Lincoln Riley are both known for creating championship programs at the University of Oklahoma.
The score comes up. OU's gonna win it. They repeat as national champions.
The first Power 5 team to win 4 straight conference titles. It's incomplete. Intercepted by Trey Brown. And Oklahoma is the Big 12 champion again.
Winning championships isn't the only thing they have in common. Before they took on their coaching roles, they both started their careers as walk-ons in the NCAA. Although both of their walk-on journeys might not be exactly the same, you can't help but wonder how those journeys have influenced their respective coaching styles and who they are today. Walk-ons, like Coach Kindler and Coach Riley, aren't favored to make the headlines. They're not being paid, so why do they do it? What's motivating them? Who is helping them along the way? What do their experiences teach them? And how has it influenced where they are now? OU women's gymnastics head coach KJ Kindler grew up in the town of St. Paul, Minnesota, where she first fell in love with the sport of gymnastics.
We had a jungle gym in our backyard, and I used to envision myself in the Olympics. You know, I would salute to the imaginary judges, and I had an entire routine on this jungle gym, and I would do it over and over for hours until I thought I won the gold medal. You know, I just kind of loved doing it. I don't know that I had a talent, I just had a passion.
Down south, OU men's football coach Lincoln Riley found his love for football while growing up in the small town of Muleshoe, Texas.
I think we were in like Sunday school. I think I was like a 7th grader, maybe a 6th grader. I just started playing. One of the ladies teaching the class was kind of talking to me about football and asked me how I was going, and was trying to make the point to me. And I don't really exactly remember how I got started, but the point that, you know, well, don't you appreciate that the fans come to the game and the cheerleaders are there at the game and the people that work for all of it. And I knew nothing at the time. My mom always laughs because like I told her, I was like, I don't really care about that. I just love football. Like I don't care that anybody comes to the game. I just love football. My mom just always laughs about it because now here we are coaching it from lots of people. And so how times and viewpoints have changed. But yeah, from the second I got a chance to play it and be a part of it, it definitely hit me like that.
After becoming star standouts in both of their towns, Kindler and Riley's love for sport would soon get the opportunity to become their future.
When I was a young high school athlete, probably 8th grade, I started going to a camp called Camp Sukara. And this camp was located in northern Wisconsin. And my parents would save up and I would spend a week there every summer. When I was there, I met the coach of the Iowa State gymnastics team. His name was Mike Sharpless. And we just developed a really strong and great relationship. He didn't look at me as like the kid who's not quite as talented. He looked at me as a kid who could learn more.
I'm talking to her one summer before we had too many crazy recruiting rules. I said, you know, would you ever consider coming to Iowa State? And she pulled my chain and said, no. Which I was like, wait, I thought we had a good relationship. But she was yanking my chain and she said, oh, no, I'm kidding.
Nothing ever trumped that relationship I had started with Mike during those summer camps. So that was really my dream, was to go to Iowa State. And when he offered me the walk-on position, I was so excited. And when I got into school, I was even more excited.
I was recruited by a few lower level Division I schools at the time. Kind of the TCUs, SMUs, kind of that part of the world. I was recruited by some Ivy League schools and then some 1AA schools. And I would say it was a good experience. I mean, I was from a small town, a town that didn't naturally produce a lot of, Division I players. There wasn't, getting noticed there was, certainly more difficult than, maybe being in a major city. And that was before the internet really changed recruiting, and how you get your film out, all these different combines, camps going on. I mean, it was just a different climate. And so it was, kind of trying as best I could to get my name out there, do as much as I could to try to get noticed. Came down to, some pretty good 1AA offers, some pretty good Ivy League offers, or, kind of in my mind, the chance to go to a bigger program, walk on, and take my chances there. It was late into my senior year when I decided, for sure what I wanted to do. But it took time, and I certainly went back and forth. But I think at the end of the day, I thought, if I'm going to do this and spend all the time and effort and all of this is going to take, that I want to try to do it at the highest level. And so that was the main reason that I chose that path.
After making the decision to continue playing his sport at the highest level, Coach Riley decided to commit as a walk-on to Texas Tech University.
I think at the end of the day, I really liked what they were doing offensively, and it was just a school that I thought made sense, for my skill set, and also a chance to, again, that was kind of at the time that Mike Leach had just come in, and this throwing game was kind of really starting to get introduced in this part of the country, and that offense was a big reason why. So that was certainly an attraction. And I'd, been there. I was, from not too far from there, had camped there. Just felt like it would be a good fit.
After choosing the place they would call home for the next 4 years, Coach Kindler and Coach Riley both headed into their freshman year, motivated by the opportunities ahead.
I don't know if I would say that being a walk-on changed my level of confidence, but it made me work harder. I walked into that gym and I wanted the opportunity to compete. And I knew I was going to have to, be better. I was going to have to be better than I was at that moment. I was going to have to outwork some of my, teammates to get the opportunity. I was going to have to learn new skills. I was going to have to be better. I knew that bars was my Achilles heel. And back then we didn't have rotations, so you chose where you went every day. And I went to bars first every single day of my entire career. So I made that conscious choice. Vault was also an area that I struggled. My height, my lack of quickness. I had to work really hard on vault too and get creative with what I did in order to be an option for our team.
I've always been a pretty motivated person. It was just kind of like, hey, this is the next challenge. And so I tried not to look at it, though, as I'm a walk-on. I just looked at it like I've got an opportunity, and didn't stay focused on what I had or didn't have, just solely focused on, hey, not many people from a town of less than 5,000 people get this kind of opportunity. I can't speak to other sports, but I think a football locker room really doesn't care a whole lot. Or at least the ones I've been in have not. I think you're either on the team or you're not. And when I've, become a coach and gotten on the other side of this, I've tried to make sure that that's the case. It was a good respect among the guys. Guys were good to me as just a newcomer, and I didn't really feel like treated me any different. And I think some of the best programs have that kind of culture with their walk-ons, and then in turn, a lot of those walk-ons end up, really turning into something and helping the program out.
As a freshman, KJ Kindler instantly felt comfortable in her new environment at Iowa State.
Mike and Amy were my coaches in college, and they both brought very unique things to the table. They always coached me the same, treated me the same. lineup positions were picked based on merit, not on scholarship status. And if I got in trouble, I got in trouble the same.
My mind was, okay, we're going to put the best 5 up. That's what we're going to do. I don't care if you got a scholarship or not. Best 5.
As long as everybody's working towards the same goal, and you create the atmosphere where everybody understands, whether you're a walk-on or full scholarship, you're just as important and you have the same duties. And just because you're a walk-on doesn't mean you get to skip out early or not come to this practice or skip selling programs at the football games like we used to have to do. Everybody's the same once you walk in.
So few people had a scholarship that I didn't ever feel that being a walk-on was anything less than great. I didn't even consider myself any different from anyone else. And no one treated me any different from anyone else.
Walking on was kind of a key part of the process, because otherwise you were going to offer 4 full rides and then everybody else got nothing. Or you say, okay, well, you can work into it and we've got a partial and you can get more of a partial coming on. So walk-ons were a big part of the process in the beginning.
The vast majority of walk-ons is quite different from the people that walk in the gym that have had all the accolades and have been recruited by lots of people. So that definitely is the stability of a program, I feel, as your walk-ons.
For Lincoln Riley, even though the opportunity presented itself, he initially struggled finding the value in himself at a top-tier university.
Getting in that program at Tech was just such a culture shock. I mean, I loved it, but it was just so different from anything I had ever experienced, and I hadn't really been around other programs like that. I mean, I know I love the game, and sometimes you can worry too much about the situation. You just got to stay locked in and believe in yourself, and that situation certainly was an example of that for me.
As walk-ons, Coach Kindler and Coach Riley may not have been treated any differently, but what they did have was more financial responsibility than those who were on scholarship.
I was one of 6 children, so, my mom and dad, they raised me so that when I turned 18, I was free as a bird in every way. So financially, they gave me an allowance, I think, every week that was pretty modest, but I had to pay for my first year of school, part of my second year of school. I had a job, I worked at the club at night to get extra funds to help with that. So I had a little bit of more responsibility in terms of I couldn't just go to school and do gymnastics. I also had to financially make sure that happened. I loved coaching. I didn't look at it as a job. Like, I had so much fun with the little ones and teaching them and perfecting what they were doing. And I loved doing it. I guess I didn't think of it as a paycheck in any way. I just thought of it as something I like to do. It's just one of the things I did on my schedule every day. And I continued that on through my whole career, even once I had a scholarship.
I was pretty lucky. I mean, my parents supported me. I had an academic scholarship off of an ACT score that was a big help at the time. I still worked some on the side to try to make some extra money and stay afloat. So, I mean, I don't know if I'd classify them as struggles. I mean, I had some things I'd overcome, but I'm certainly pretty lucky. There's a lot more people that have had more struggles than I had on it, for sure.
For me, I wanted the opportunity to do gymnastics in college. It was not about money. It was not about a scholarship. It was about doing what I love with people I love. So that's the reason I chose where I went. That's the reason I did college gymnastics, and for no other reason.
She wanted to put Iowa State on the map. I mean, she was very self-driven, And you didn't need to yell at KJ or get upset. She wanted to succeed for herself and the team. Yeah, and she was a leader from the get-go. So how can you go wrong with a walk-on like that? Did you have to change your coaching style with her? No. If anything else, she wanted to do more.
I don't have to pull her over off the bench and go, you need to do it again. No, she's waiting, ready to go. She's the first one for me and for Iowa State in a long time to go to regionals. There's a different motivation being a walk-on than being a full scholarship. That you do feel the need to prove something, right? And you have no problem putting yourself on the line and saying, well, I'm going to go do it. There's a different pressure when you're full scholarship, because now you're supposed to be competing. And if you're not, that's an issue. Whereas the walk-on is not probably going to make it, but if they do, that's pretty good.
We didn't really know what was going on with scholarships on our team, nor did I really care that much. I wasn't keeping track of who had theirs, who didn't. And back then it was on a yearly basis. Every year it was redetermined. Because
we were being successful, and again, because of some of the changing things in the Title IX stuff, we got the full 10 head count. And so as soon as I got full 10, then my only gymnast that went to regional was going to get the scholarship.
I remember meeting in Mike's office at the end of the year. That's how he did it. And I was not expecting it, I'll be honest. I was just, wanting him to tell me what I needed to do better for next year and what was next on my list and all those things. And when he said that, I really was surprised. I really was shocked. I think I was always driven by myself, but him putting that faith in me, it made me feel that responsibility to be great. I learned so much from the sport in general, for my whole life, the way I live my life from beginning to end, from when I wake up to when I go to bed every night. I learned a lot from the sport, and I'm very grateful for what I learned. But at the end of the day, I wish I had been as good as I had wanted to be.
Driven by her untapped potential, KJ Kindler uses her own experience as a gymnast, now as a coach, with the hope that her gymnasts, whether competing on the competition floor or cheering from the sideline, will always feel valued and a part of the team.
My senior year, during preseason, I tore my ACL, and it was the first year that I really felt like I was going to be, have a solid spot in lineup. And so it's kind of devastating. And it was, right before we started. But KJ actually wrote me a letter that she gave me the next day at practice. And it kind of talked about, how you may not think that you're contributing to the team. You may not put numbers on the scoreboard, but you have such a bigger purpose and such a bigger role that you play that you don't even realize. And sometimes those roles are just as important, if not more important than, being one of the 6 people in lineup. So that really stuck with me and obviously made me feel, beyond valued, even though I couldn't be out there. I felt like I was such an integral part of the team.
A lot of people maybe don't emphasize that walk-on position as much as I do. I think that they add a lot of passion, love, motivation. I think that a lot of our scholarship athletes look up to our walk-on athletes, even above and beyond maybe the star of our team, because of the things they have sacrificed or the fact that they are doing it and working their way through school in a different way, but still pursuing those opportunities and still just as successful as every scholarship athlete in the room. I think it's hugely important to the team chemistry and the team environment.
I'm a different person from my freshman year to now. She just increased my confidence and helped me realize my value, not only as a gymnast, but a person.
You're a gymnastics coach, you're a psychologist, you're a mother, and you're a mother to your own family. And it's like you're wearing this hat all the time. It's beyond 24/7, especially for her. And she's always been willing to do what it takes to make her team the best that they can be.
It's not about the money, it's about the experience. And anyone who is invited to take part in the experience is in for the journey of a lifetime. You know, you can have a scholarship and have a totally different experience, but it's not the be-all end-all of who you are. I do think a lot of clubs pedestal it so much that they make you feel that you weren't worthy, you know, if you're a walk-on. And I think that mentality really needs to change.
Similar to Coach Kindler, Lincoln Riley now uses what he learned as a walk-on athlete as a guide for building not only a championship program, but for mentoring players into becoming champions themselves.
Like any big organization, any team, I mean, every part is critical. And, you know, I think one of our big deals is not, we don't try to value any position in our program more than the other. It's everybody's role is extremely important. If somebody doesn't do their role or you don't have the right people in a role, you're going to feel that. You're not going to be as successful, and the walk-ons are certainly no different.
I think when the transition to Coach Riley came, because him being a former walk-on, he had that different perspective. I want to say, like, he understood that doesn't mean you can't play. At the end of the day, your skill level and like how bad you want it. If you can match those things to the level they're looking for, they're going to play you regardless if you're on scholarship or not. So at the end of the day, like, if you don't go through it yourself, there are certain things you're not going to understand. And that was kind of the missing piece for at least being a walk-on and just being pretty good. Like, hey, I can play with these guys too. He knew exactly how I felt, where I was coming from. That it's not like a far-fetched idea that I can be the guy that y'all depend on Saturdays.
So I started off kind of unsure what I wanted to do initially coming into college football. But then after playing and after 2 or 3 years, I wanted to pursue the coaching side of things. So I could say he for sure has influenced me. I wanted to, I don't know, just seeing like the way he works, like the way he thinks, not only just on the football side, but like dealing with other people, dealing with players. I think it's really had a big impact on me.
Going through college football with him, obviously going from a walk-on to a scholarship player and starter and stuff, I would say 2016 is when I had like the biggest transformation, and he had a lot to do with it, because you go from trying to like prove yourself that you're good enough versus someone's instilling that confidence in you.
I felt like coming in, like being behind Baker and seeing what Baker had done, that kind of, from a football perspective, that kind of like set the tone. There was a standard here that was higher than others. You knew that coming to OU, like, okay, there's guys before us who have been walk-ons, who have proved themselves, and not only did they just get a scholarship, but they ended up winning Heisman trophies, going to the NFL, stuff that like hadn't been done anywhere else.
For walk-ons in the future of this program, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, you know, it goes from walk-on to winning the Heisman and being the number 1 pick in the NFL draft and the NFL starting quarterback. And so I think it shows, one, you're going to get the opportunity to, if you do it right at a place like OU, regardless if you're a scholarship player, walk-on, whatever, then there's not much in this game that you can't accomplish.
From walk-ons to now coaching walk-ons, Coach Kindler and Coach Riley are able to see the differences in how walk-ons were once valued and treated in the NCAA to how they are valued and treated now.
At a place like Oklahoma, we're just so fortunate because there's so many things that we can provide to our walk-on athletes that perhaps back, in my time, walk-on athletes didn't get. And that includes uniforms, Nike gear, nutrition, like I mentioned, academic support, the tutoring, everything. I really honestly believe that walk-on athletes get every single thing the same as a scholarship athlete now, with the exception of tuition, room, board, and books. Other than that, though, their experience is identical. Now, you might say, how can you say that? That's a lot of money they're not getting. And it is, it absolutely is, but their care is the same.
In my opinion, it's program to program. I think the value of maybe student athletes in general is changing in a positive way. Walk-ons in particular, I think it just depends what campus you're on. I mean, I think there's a lot of places like ours that really value their walk-ons and really work hard at it. And I think there's some places where it's just not quite as high of a priority. And so I think it depends on the culture that starts with the athletic director and down to the head coaches and the staff of each of these sports, and how much value do they place on that in their program. And then I think too, it's not hard to look at just across the country is who's having success with walk-ons, who's having walk-ons that are becoming, primetime performers, who's having, teams that are consistently winning each year, because to me, that's a sign that your walk-on program is strong because your players are prepared. You're getting contributions on the field on game days from guys that maybe didn't necessarily invest a scholarship in day one. So I think there's a lot of signs, but I can promise you this, they won't ever be undervalued here.
When reflecting on their past and where they are now, both Kindler and Riley agree that their careers would be much different today if they had never chosen to take the walk-on journey.
I would be different. I would certainly look at things different. I mean, one, just my appreciation of walk-ons and what they do. It shaped mindset. It shaped just the opportunity that I ended up getting as a coach. I mean, a lot of things definitely stemmed from it. But I think too, it shaped kind of how I've coached too, and made decisions professionally of, trying not to just take the easy way out, which, I mean, for me, not that, going to those other schools, I think maybe it worked out fine as well. But to me, this was I was kind of taking the risk doing this. Like, this was kind of like not the easy path. And this was kind of, swinging for the fences in a way. And I think, in my mind, at least, that was it. And so I do think as I've gone forward, it's made me less hesitant in those big moments to, what are big moments in your life, or big decisions you have or whatever, to not be afraid to go for it.
I mean, I think me being a walk-on is part of my story. And part of my story is who I am. And so does it contribute to everything I do? Probably yes. I can't pinpoint it as the one thing, but I can tell you it's part of who I am and why I am who I am today, why I made certain choices and decisions in my life. And I think that it certainly has set the stage for what is now my career.